right, we are now in the pre-show. Oh, by the way, Rick, did you get? Have you got the chat room up?
Yeah, I do.
You do. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
good. Very good.
So I can see that. I got
out here.
Let me get myself a little bit centered there.
Okay.
I'm still not
Getting
centered.
centered is always a good thing.
There we go. Gosh, how come I can't figure out how to do this? What am I, a rocket scientist or something?
Well, your left is on your right, and your right is on your left. If that helps.
Yeah. And white balance does not work on an iPhone, obviously.
Well, it's probably set on automatic.
Yeah. Well, we're using 5,000 degree lights in here.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to understand how that works.
Yeah. It's all about color of light.
The color of light. Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually there's a lot of people that study that, and they study how your eyes can auto white balance, and your mind thinks white is white, when in fact it's orange or yellow or some other color.
Because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be white.
Here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Let's see who's watching us so far. Texas Mike is here. Rod from the UK is here. Amnon from North Carolina is here. Hassan is here, and Dave O is here. Notable, we don't have anybody from the panhandle of Florida here.
I would think not.
They are otherwise occupied.
Yeah, they're probably very busy.
Yeah, they are. All right. Well, this is going to be fun. We've got the PTZ Optics Stream Geeks show is on right now. And so when that show ends, they'll begin to dribble over from that show to this show. And that's it. And all of a sudden we see this influx of folks in the chat room and we know what's going on. By the way, folks, if you're watching us on chat, obviously Rick is going to be our guest today. Rick, did I spell your name right?
No, but I don't care.
Jeez. It was a 50-50 shot.
It was, yeah.
And I missed it. So let me have another go at it here.
All right.
Is it I before E or E before I?
Well, it's WIELEN.
LEN. Oh, to see.
Yeah, there you go.
I was just messed up everywhere. Okay, we got you a couple different places, so we got to get it fixed. Yeah. It's funny, everywhere I've got it written on my desktop, I've got it written right, except where I put it on the screen.
Well, with my last name, I've learned that close is good enough.
Close will do. That's right. As long as you get the Rick part. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as the check has got a couple of commas in it, you'll take the last name spelling, whichever way it go.
I'll take any check.
Yeah, that's right.
At this point in my life.
That's right. Folks, if you're watching us on Facebook or if you're watching us on YouTube directly, you need to come over to Eastern Shore Broadcasting, right down there, .com, and click the Watch Live tab. That way you get in on the chat. You say, what's the deal with the chat? Well, the chat is a great way for you to communicate with us, especially if you have a question or if you have a comment. A lot of times we'll do a pre-show that looks like this, so you get to see the chat right there. But when we have a guest on, obviously we don't get to do that, and so we don't have a special pre-show format set up for that. Rick and I chatted briefly yesterday about what he's going to talk about today, but I told him he couldn't tell me too much. Because otherwise we'd end up skipping some of the good parts. So if you're doing a talk show or if you're thinking about doing a talk show, remember, don't interview your guest ahead of the interview. Otherwise, they'll say all their good stuff, and then they'll take shortcuts with you when they get into the interview. It doesn't work.
Very common mistake.
Rick and I actually graduated from high school the same year, 1974. And I'm trying to remember something significant that happened in 74 besides graduating from high school. My mind is a blank. I guess it was the Nixon and Watergate stuff going on about that time or thereabouts.
Yep.
And
not
Auburn
a lot.
football.
I mean, well, I didn't follow Auburn football, but Of course, back then, I was 18 years old. I thought I was going to be in the NBA, and that didn't happen. And but then again, so did probably 100,000 other Indiana high school basketball players. But no, it was a good time. Good time. We didn't have a lot to do. I mean, we've got toys now. And you stop back and think of '74. What do we do to entertain ourselves? I mean,
I like beer. What can I say?
yeah.
That was it. That was it. Okay. For those of you guys that like the kind of the pre-show stuff, I want to give you some stats on what Brett's doing. On what Rick's doing today. He's sending me 720 video at about 800K. And Rick, are you on your iPhone today?
This is an iPhone, yeah.
Okay, so the iPhone has negotiated. All right, it just bumped up to 1,500, and so it's actually going to be a dynamic bit rate that's going to fluctuate based on the available internet. So we're going well. We got 30 frames a second. We've got a latency of about 250 milliseconds, so about a quarter of a second, which means by the time I say it and Rick responds to it and I hear his response, it's going to be about a half a second. That's not too bad, but sometimes it means there's a little that uncomfortable pause that you see on CNN or Fox sometimes.
Or we talk over each other.
That's right. We try to anticipate when the other one's finishing the sentences.
Exactly.
And this is, I got to take this call.
Do it.
We'll take it on the air. Eastern Shore Broadcasting, this is Tom. And they hung up. The reason why I took it is because it was PI Engineering, the folks that make the X keys. And I don't know if they were calling to hassle me right before the show or calling to tell me something wasn't working. That happens from time to time.
I remember the day I discovered X keys way, way back.
Oh, yeah?
I was using a TriCaster and noticed that they had shortcuts through the keyboard. And, today you all do this and think, well, that's second nature. Let's do this, and that with X keys. But in 2002 or 3, that sure made my life a lot easier.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And it was new and different and cutting edge. And
well, the original intent of X keys wasn't necessarily for video production, but it didn't take long to figure out that was a great solution, that I could program F1 to preset camera 1, drop in the lower third, and take it to air. And, my life became a lot easier, pressing one button instead of 3.
Sure. Well, and now vMix has taken that where you can stack 25 shortcuts on one X keys button if you want to, and then throw in some triggers for good measure.
Who was it that I saw recently? Jacob, who had developed a giant X keys solution for, everything. And I was thinking, my gosh, run the whole thing on a X keys box.
Yes, you can. That was probably Jim Jacobs.
Jim, yeah. I've talked to Jim several times.
Northeast Alabama. And then TJ Atkinson has also developed his own setup for the jog shuttle controller to control slow motion instant replay in vMix.
Yeah,
he's really got it dialed in. Yeah. All right, TV Todd is here. He's flipped over from the other side. He said, "It looks like you're a little blue today."
It's the color of light, Todd, and I can't white balance. So
that's right.
My wife would tell you that I naturally look like I'm dying, but it's these 5,000 degree lights.
Let's see if we can't help him out just a little bit here. That takes a little bit of the blue out.
Yeah.
We'll do some autocorrect. There we go.
Hey, not bad.
That's
not bad at all.
That's the autocorrect in vMix. All right, so let's see who here's here. Tess is here. Hello, Tess. Tess, at some point I'm going to do a takeoff show. I'm going to do a show that's going to be a takeoff of your show, and I'm going to dress up in black glasses with a blonde wig. I'm going to shave my beard, and I'm going to be Bess. We'll see if that ever hits the airwaves. Chris is here. Nick is here. The wife is Marie, and Marie and Jan were the ones that started the Streaming Idiots group. And so we're delighted to have Marie here today. Rod, and then, of course, Tommy from up the road, and TV Todd, who we've already mentioned. Otis is here. Welcome, Otis. Kenny's here. So it looks like the gang is arriving. We've got about 4.5 minutes until we've got showtime, but that's not always that's not always a guarantee that the show starts at showtime. Rick, have you guys done talk shows, or is it just all sports?
Have I personally?
Yeah,
no. I mean,
like
when I owned the television
or
station,
coaches.
Yeah, we do. We've done everything. I owned a TV station. We did everything from
that's right.
Talk shows to Adopt the Dog show to, every show. But I was not normally the guy on the air. I was the guy behind the scenes making it all happen. But we've done it all. Nowadays, it's just sports. Well, I had a brother-in-law to begin with, and he wasn't half bad. But we had volunteers in the community that would come forward, and they, it's always tough to pick talent. You can interview somebody and have a conversation with them, go out to lunch, and you think this is the perfect person, and put them on the air, and they lay an egg. Yep. So you have to kind of go through the process of finding people, but they're there. It's just a matter of discovery.
Well, I'm moving that direction, so it's going to be interesting to see if I can discover the right people.
Yeah.
We will see.
And when you find someone good, whether they're basketball talent, football, camera ops, director, you hold on to them. You just simply take care of them, make them happy, pay them correctly, keep them.
You got to know. You got to know that you can't grow that talent in a heartbeat. Yep.
Especially camera ops. Very difficult to find. And it's just so difficult to find a good camera op. And I've tried to decide it's not an intelligent thing. It has nothing to do with your intelligence. The only common denominator I've come up with is they like music.
Really?
Good cam ops play music or really are music aficionados. And I have no idea why.
Interesting.
It is.
Well, I was watching an ESPN game over the weekend, and the camera operator had taken his instruction from me, obviously, on how he needed to operate his camera, because you could see every player on the field and then a good 10 yards behind the offense and a good 10 yards behind the defense. And everybody was about this big. Holy cow.
Yep.
When his coach said, make sure you get everybody in the shot, he was not going to take any chances. This is ESPN. What's going on? Holy cow, man.
Now, my son works for ESPN on the weekend, but I don't think he was doing your game. Well, it's an interesting story.
I would hope not. Holy cow.
He did the John Belushi plan in college, less 7 years down the drain for nothing, and came to work for me at the television station, and I had to give him a job, so I said, hey, go run camera. And he was good. And it wasn't just Daddy thinking his son was good.
Does he like music?
I said, hey, he does. Played in the band all the way through high school.
There you go.
Played every instrument he could get his hands on. So as time moved forward and I sold companies, the only thing that lived beyond the sale was my son. And he's working for Raycom Tupelo now. And every Saturday he goes and does a big game somewhere. So he was chasing a dream and caught it.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
All right, 30 seconds. Dave says that they can hear you and echo in your audio, so I turned down this monitor here in the studio just a tad.
Yeah.
Yes, Todd, we are out of reach of Hurricane Michael. It's a little overcast here now. Chris, what was the weather when you came in? Windy. Okay, we might get a little bit of breeze. I think actually we're supposed to get, what was there, a 50% chance that we would get tropical storm force winds. So, we'll get some 30s maybe. Won't be too bad. All right. Let's see. What do we got going here? I am going to drop this right there. And I'm going to drop that right there. mute my phone. Make sure everything's turned off, and we're going to get going. Rick, I'm going to mute you, but I'll remember to turn you back on before I bring you back. So don't go away. Don't go away. All right, so Rick is muted. And let's go back to this shot for just a second. Tommy says they're getting light rain up the road in Tallahassee, Alabama, which is between Montgomery and Auburn. And so, yeah, they might get a little bit. Dothan's probably going to get some stuff. Jim probably won't get much up his way. At least we hope not. All right, folks. Well, let's get ready for this show, shall we? Last thing I do want to mention, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com. That way you can get in on the chat, because we've got a couple dozen folks in chat, and they sure would love to chat with you. And let's see, who else? Anybody that slipped in when I wasn't paying attention. Martin K. is here. Hello, Martin. Jan is here. Scott's here. Hey, Scott, welcome. Glad you're here. Gabby M1 Sport, welcome. Martin Stuckey, welcome, sir. Jim Jacobs, all right, good deal. And Martin S., of course. And Jerome's here. Hey, Jerome, hope you're doing well, sir. And that's it for the moment. All right, so Scott says they're not getting much wind in Michigan yet from the hurricane. Well, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, I don't want to babble around too much, because we got Rick sitting in the green room. He's getting nervous. He might wander off, so we don't want to let that happen. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right, one button show start. Ready? Here we go. Hey, Cliff's here. Hey, welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. You have arrived at the penultimate of self-produced internet, TV, web streaming, live streaming, webcasting, whatever we're going to call it. It doesn't get any better than this. I'm delighted to have you with us today. We got a really special guest. Rick Vanderwielen from Hometown Television is coming on in just a minute. And Rick has got all sorts of experience doing sports live streaming before it was even called live streaming. In fact, I think he and some of his buddies coined some of the phrases. Big shout out to my buddy Cliff, who just joined us online. And if you're wondering, yes, you can join us and get in on the chat room. Come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, and you can get in on the chat room, and you can find about all the other good stuff that's going on with Eastern Shore Broadcasting. I will make one mention before I forget it. Remember, this whole show is a giant infomercial for my company, Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Yes, Streaming Idiots, it's just a vehicle for marketing. It's a capitalist plot, but it's my capitalist plot. Anyway, we represent numerous great companies, like vMix, for example, but one in particular, and let me grab something that's just out of reach here. We represent PTZ Optics, and we love these little PTZ Optics cameras. They're great for churches. They're great for TV studios and talk shows and things like that. And this is actually one that we sold to a TV station up in Connecticut, and several years ago, 2 years ago, and they wanted to upgrade to one that was what was it? This one doesn't have PoE. That's what it was. They wanted one with PoE, and they wanted one with a different lens. And so we took this one in on trade. It's a 20x zoom. It's still got the little tape right on the front covering everything. It's got a little teeny scratch on the side. It's got 8 months left on the manufacturer's warranty. It's, of course, 1080p, HDMI, SDI, IP streaming, all the goodies that you come to expect from PTZ Optics. We've tested it. We've upgraded the firmware, so it's got the latest, greatest. And it can be yours today for the price of $1,000, $999.95. I'll give you a nickel off, and we'll ship it to you. So if you want it, let me know. There's no special order form or anything like that. You just somehow shout out to me and say, Tom, I want it. We'll send you an invoice for it and then send it to you. And periodically we will get some gear in on trade, and then we're just basically just gonna pass it along to somebody else. It'll come with our full lifetime tech support. You say lifetime. What does that mean, lifetime? Well, it means yours or mine, whichever ends first. It's lifetime tech support. That's right. All the stuff we have, including buying vMix from us. We're the #1 reseller for vMix in the U.S. We would love to have you come buy it from us and get personal support from us. Other footnotes as we get Rick ready to go there. A mention that we want to save the date. That's right. The date is April 9th, 2019. The venue is Las Vegas. The date is saved for the Streaming Idiots meetup, and that's the Tuesday night of NAB in Las Vegas, April 9th. Mark it on your calendar. Make your hotel reservations now. Get the good cheap flights now, and we'll have a lot of fun. And you'll go home with a valuable trinket like this, your Streaming Idiots koozie, and we'll come up with some other good stuff too. And last other note is, if you are interested in being a training provider for live streaming, specifically, at least the conversation is right now, specifically for vMix, we're having an online meeting on Friday at 1 o'clock on Zoom. If you are interested, shoot me a Facebook message or a tweet or an email or whatever you want to, however you can, and let me know, and I'll make sure you get an invite. There'll be about 50 folks attending. Could be more, could be less, but the idea is that I've had a number of companies that have approached me and say, golly, Tom, do you do on-site training? Well, I can come to you, but I'm going to have to fly across the country to do it. What if there were somebody just down the street from you that could provide the same services? So let's talk about that. That's going to be 1 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. Would love to have you in there for it. Contact me for more information. Okay, I can breathe now. Now, looks like everything froze up here. What happened? Oh, whole PC froze up. If you can still see me, we're rebooting. We'll be right back. What happened? That's no good. Chris, notice how everything froze?
Yep.
Not just Rick. Let me scoot by you there. You good?
Thanks, Chris.
Look at
Jiminy
here.
Christmas.
All right. All right.
I think I got thrown under the bus.
There we are. There we are. Okay, let me get the desktop back here. I had to reboot the PC. It just locked up for no good reason.
It is Sinclair getting your in yet. Actually, didn't have his earplugs in.
No, he didn't have his earplugs in.
Okay. And let's go over here and turn off the technical difficulties sign. There we go. All right, so Rick, sorry about that. I'd blame it on a hurricane if there was one around. Oh, wait, there's one close by.
Yeah. Well, while you were gone, I declared myself the new owner of Streaming Idiots, and your business is now mine.
Well, you may regret that.
Well, you didn't read all the comments. I mean, the best one was, who was the one that posted slightly used computer for sale over at Eastern Shore Broadcasting, only used for one show.
Well, you know, it's the darndest thing. Here I spend all this time and energy building these great PCs for other folks, and what do I use? I'm using a pair, well, actually, no, just one now, a second generation i7. I mean, the 9th generation's i7s are coming out shortly, and I'm still back on the second generation. All the people that had such nice things to say about me tomorrow or yesterday will be retracting them tomorrow, like Cliff Sobel. Anyway.
And Jim Jacobs is taking credit for this failure. He indicates that he put his gremlins on us.
Yeah. Well, I could believe that. Yeah, I could believe that. Let's see. Where were we? We hadn't gotten anywhere. We weren't anywhere all of a sudden. Well, Rick, welcome to the show. That's how we welcome our really special guests. Is we just cut you off. Oh gosh. So Rick has owned and sold all sorts of companies in his past, including TV stations and including broadcasting companies, and has found himself a retirement niche in Indiana, live streaming high school football and working with the guys at Hamilton County TV like Jim Wofford and that crazy crowd. Rick, how in the world did you get into this sports production business?
I guess it starts with how did I get into television, which was not necessarily
you got to give us
target.
You got to give us the short version though, because I know
the short version.
This is only a 3-hour show. We don't have enough time for that.
And we've already burned 15 minutes of it when you reboot. So. Well, here's what happened. I had a company called Integrator.com, and I got bought in 2000 and fired. So, being an early retiree, I had to find something to do for my second half of my career, and I had a non-compete. I couldn't, start Integrator2.com. So my attorney and I actually went out, looked at buying radio stations, and found out that, well, I got some advice that wasn't really the thing to do. I think Jim Jacobs might back me up on that, but we ended up buying a small television station, and as a hobby, actually, and found out that the revenue stream centered around churches and producing sports. So we produced a lot of sports, and we ended up getting very good. And we were hired by a firm called the NCAA to broadcast their national championships. And that was a massively large contract. And actually, that was a spinoff of a second company I created, Webstream Productions, with my partner, John Cervisi. So we ended up, at that point, doing 700 games a year. And what was really cool was the NCAA put them on the web back in the day.
What era are we talking about?
Well,
90s?
About 2000, no, 2003, 2004.
Okay.
And so all national championships that the NCAA sanctioned, we produced and put on the web. As a matter of fact, some of the guys that are your followers, we subcontracted because we couldn't do them all at the same time. There were many coincidental national championships. I remember May 23rd was the worst day in the year because we had 6 different events in 6 different locations. So the good thing was, being an electrical engineer from Purdue University, technically I understood the process, the concept and all, but I had to learn how to make money producing sports. And that was quite an education. And we got really big, and we got bought again. And again, I found myself unemployed. Got bought by an Alabama company, Raycom.
Raycom out of Montgomery, yeah.
Yeah. So since about 2013, I've consulted with people about how to broadcast, how to make money. That's kind of an open-ended question because some people aren't necessarily wanting to make money. There's, hey, look, I'm on the air. I'll be back. Hey, look, good job, Tom. There we go. Some people don't care about making money. It's more about a passion or a vocation, or in the case of Hamilton County TV, where I'm at right now, they do it to promote a sign shop and a trophy shop that's owned by Hamilton County TV's owner. So he produces sports for local high schools. They buy their trophies and signs here. So I'm right now, I hang out on webcasters a lot. I have about 10 clients that I work with on a periodic basis. And other than that, I'm just making my wife's dreams come true.
Now, Webcasters is the Facebook group that you've started.
Yeah.
And so folks that are interested in that can go to facebook.com/groups/webcasters and they can get in on that. And it's a good group. I think I've been in the group maybe a year and a half, and have really enjoyed the guys that have shared their stories and shared their setups and shared the challenges, shared their failures, shared their successes. It's really been a very, very good experience for me.
Well, it was an accident, Tom. I didn't start that with the intent of getting to 1,300 members. I had a group of 10 buddies who seemed to ask the same questions. And I thought, well, how can I answer one of them and let the other 10 share? And so a closed group was the best solution on Facebook. But they let the cat out of the bag, and more people showed up, and they told more people. And every post has some educational element. Somebody's trying something with this box, or they've integrated these systems together, or they've experienced this type of failure. And that's what I like, is reading about the experiences that people have and their solutions.
Well, that's the engineer in you that likes to analyze and enjoy the puzzle nature of it. I get it. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's been a great group. Well, tell me a little bit about your experience. Let's see. Let me think of a good question. I know. Okay. Tell me about your very first live stream, the one that you produced yourself.
Oh, gosh. It was at the University of...
That's going to make me feel better about the failure that I just had just a few minutes ago, I'm hoping.
Well, here's where it occurred. It was at the University of Indianapolis. And we were on a TriCaster, and they informed me, just behind me was a port to the internet. And that they had taken the initiative to open a live stream account and asked me if I could stream the game we were about to produce for television, coincidentally, to the internet. So with about 15 minutes to spare and a quick phone call to Livestream's tech support, we got the game on the air.
Wow.
And after that, I thought, this is cool. This is cool, especially because they had, unbeknownst to me as their producer, they had pre-announced that this was going to happen. So we had 20 people watch, and I thought, wow, 20 people watching on phones, a moving postage stamp. Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
And shortly thereafter, then the NCAA called and said, do you have any experience live streaming? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm an expert at it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we have this idea. We want to have you webcast all the national championships that we do. Division I, Division II, Division III, volleyball, lacrosse, softball, baseball, blah, blah, blah. And I needed a partner and found a professor at Butler named John Cervisi, who's a genius. And John, who's substantially younger than me, jumped on board, and he ran with it. We ended up buying TriCasters, hiring people, figuring out how to ship equipment across the country. I mean, we ended up doing downhill skiing in Idaho as an NCAA championship event. So the experience is like drinking out of a hydrant. The amount of experiences that I received, and John and all the guys working for me, and then it blossomed from there. Once we started doing NCAA national championships, then other college conferences said, we want something for conference. So, of course, we specialize in that. So we started to develop the web page, the chat box, everything for conferences like the Horizon League, the Big South, the AA, the new AA conference, the Ohio Valley, Missouri Valley.
Yeah. What era was this?
This would have been about 07.
5, 6,
08,
okay, 7.
in that era, yeah. So all of a sudden we had accidentally created a huge machine. We were producing games all the time. And I still remember doing my first ESPN game, which was, this is a great story. I'm driving to, I think I'm going to Missouri, University of Missouri. We're going to do their GLVC championship. And on the way there, my partner John calls me and says, ESPN wants your game. Now I'm in a Sprinter van and using a TriCaster. I said, okay, well, what do I need to do? He said, well, just call ESPN when you get there. So we get there and I call ESPN and the guy said, let me, we're on the truck. We're on the bird. The guy says, let me see camera one. Okay, camera one, give me a shot. Hold one, take one. Okay, let me see two, take two. Three, take three. Four, take four. Let me see five. I don't have a five. One, give me a different shot. Five. Six, give me a different shot. Six or two. So we ended up, they thought we were shooting 6 cameras. We shot 4. But what was interesting is we did 14 games on ESPN2, and we had the best of the best on the Sports Center. And my guys had just thought they had been discovered. It was a great time. And from that point, it was all ESPN. We did ESPN every weekend. We went from charging UND $5,000 to charging ESPN $35,000. Doesn't take long. And even in my mind, let's go do ESPN.
Yep.
So today, WebStream is almost exclusive to the mothership and Fox Sports 1. I know they're on that. They're going to actually do a game for me, volleyball at the end of November, and it'll be on Fox Sports Indiana. So, it's just great going from a moving postage stamp to ESPN in 4 years. That was a blast.
That's amazing. That takes a big set. Oh man, that's cool. That is very cool.
Well, it was it was good. And I'll tell you, I had great guys, and that's the thing. No business is successful unless you hire the right people. And I did. I had great guys.
Awesome. So did you have competition?
Well, where? We did. But here's the problem. We always told our client we could do 90% of the big truck at 10% of the price. Later that became we can do 80% of the big truck at 20% of the price, but we never got to the point where it wasn't a phenomenal value. We had competition, but they couldn't compete. Well, as a matter of fact, we were shooting HD when they're still 4x3 NTSC. So they're going to roll in a 40-foot truck, pull out analog cameras, and lay a price in front of the GLVC of who knows how much. I mean, they couldn't compete. So the answer was, and this is, we didn't have, there's 1,000 guys out there now that could compete today, but there weren't in the day.
Right.
We had a niche.
Boy, did you ever. You had a 4-lane highway. It wasn't a niche. It was a 4-lane highway that you were going full speed down the middle of the highway, and there was nobody else on the highway. That's amazing.
And that's part of the reason that we sold out, is that when you see on the horizon technology and people that could start to compete with you, and your niche is starting to go away,
right? Maybe
it's time to pull the trigger.
Right.
So that's essentially what happened. I stepped out, and John is still with Raycom Tupelo as their vice president. But there's nothing special about what I could do that all these guys in this Facebook group couldn't do today.
Right.
So I kind of lost my angle.
There's timing, and there's a time for everything, and there's being in the right place for all of that to happen. That's true. And you were just there. That is so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, Jim Jacobs is saying in chat.
Well, we had a great
You only have to be right once.
Yeah. So today, to kind of keep my juices flowing, I'll buy a box and play with it, or I've been building up audio solutions for people and cameras on rails with batteries, and giving people advice about camera articulation, audio levels. I critique a lot of guys, and I tell them up front, I'll give you an honest critique, but you may not like what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And most of the guys are really good with that. So what'd you think? Well, I think you're trying to out-talk your video. Oh, okay. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're shooting 60 a second. you can't out-talk 60,000 words a second, so don't try. But a lot of the guys get a lot better after you give them a little bit of advice. And because really, and we talked about this yesterday, Tom, there's no book that's been written on this, how to do this. And even if there was a book, by the time it hit print, it would be antiquated.
Oh,
because
yeah.
this technology
golly.
moves so fast.
By next
really
week,
good
it would
advice.
be antiquated.
Yeah. So the only way that you learn is really find other people doing similar things and ask questions and learn from each other. And that's really what this Facebook group, yours and mine, is all about. It's learning from each other.
Well, I tell you, there's a huge need, and you're touching on just a little part of it. But you know, the day that you were doing this, you were the big dog. Now, there were giant dogs around you, but you were the big dog, and there may have been, 10, 12 people on your crew? Well, now there are 500 crews across the country, maybe more than that. And at least down here in Alabama, every high school has got a production team. And the quality of the production, while the technology is there, you and I can both take the same saw, and by the time we're done with it, I've got a mangled piece of wood, and you've got a Michelangelo, because you know how to operate that saw, and I don't. And there are people out there that have got technology that they don't know how to use. Yeah. And that starts with cameras.
Very true.
It definitely starts with cameras. It certainly starts with graphics. It starts with talent. And there's got to be a way to bring all those people up to speed so that they can match the technology that they're using. Our local high school does sports, and they do a pretty darn good job with the technical aspect of it. But the talent are two guys that used to play for this team, this high school, 25, 35 years ago. And so they want to talk about the good old days, the whole game. And, they want to give shout outs to their cousins. And meanwhile, there are really cool things going on the field. And there's this great instant replay that just happened. And, they're talking about Cousin Bubba, scoring a touchdown back in 1922. And it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I know. We produce art. In the end, it's an artistic production, which is a combination of video and audio, and one or the other can bust the other. If you have bad commentary, video doesn't matter. If the video's bad, the commentary doesn't matter. But you're right. But I was going to ask if one of them was an old coach, because
old players.
Oh well, they're just as bad.
Yep.
Yeah, back in the day,
and politicians.
Yeah,
I mean they're both. That. I mean, this is small town stuff. But if that's art, then we're drawing with stick figures. That's where we are. So, but my point is here in front of the thousands of people that are watching today is I want to put you back into. I'm gonna put you in a corner, and I'm gonna force you to say, yes, Tom, I will help you put together some classes to teach people how to do this stuff.
Now wait a minute, was that directed at me?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
it's got to happen.
There needs to be more education, and like I said, a book doesn't really do you any good.
No,
there's a lot of things people can do. You've really got to have video.
Yeah.
I start with what's the expectation? Why are you doing this? Let's start with your intent. Are you looking to make money? Is this going to be a vocation? Is this part of a bigger thing? Like, do you have a web page where you use video to support the web page? I have to know more about the intent of the producer before I can train them. If their intent, like most people, is a combination of a vocation and a profession, then we can talk about how to economically produce, how to put an image on the air that gives the expected view to the fan,
right,
and how to make money. And it starts, basically with a long discussion about why. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I've got.
Good.
I'll tell you honestly.
What are you doing next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday. What am I doing next Tuesday? I'll come up with something.
Folks, if you're just joining us, we've got Rick Vanderwielen here, And we're talking about sports. We're talking about live streaming sports. We're talking about ESPN. We're talking about high school football. We're talking about all things. And if you're saying, golly gee, I wish I could ask a question, well, you need to go to easternshorebroadcasting.com and get in on the Watch Live, because that's where the chat is. We've got a couple dozen folks over in chat, and we'd love to have you come join us. And meanwhile, I'm trying to pin down Rick and force him to take his book idea and to put it in video and say, okay, let's produce a series of 5-minute videos for camera guys, and 5-minute videos for talent, and 10 5-minute videos for technical directors, and put it all together in a little package and make it available to folks so that the sum total can be that when people tune into live stream sports, they're going to see a good production. Doesn't have to be great, but at least it shouldn't be bad.
Over the years, I did behind the scenes productions on YouTube.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys are in the chat room. There's a few in there. They've seen these before. And I would get comments. This was back before Facebook or any of the social media. YouTube was about it. That they learned so much watching us do a game behind the scenes. So that's how you do it. I always wondered how you did it. Hold on, Tom.
That's all right. That's all right.
I got a vocal cord problem. Periodically, it catches me. But I think what you're talking about is doing a little more of that. Let's talk about setting up a tripod and leveling it. And let's talk about white balance and the color of light. And let's talk about framing and that gentle push into the pile as a tackle's made. Let's talk about watching an ESPN game with the sound down. Don't listen to the announcers. Don't listen to the game. Watch the cameraman and do that. Every time I get a new cameraman, I literally go stand with him upstairs because I don't produce anymore. I'm just there. And I'll tell the guy, you're not paid by the articulation. You're not paid by the push and the pull. You're paid by how you frame the video. So watch me, and I'll start the video on a football game. Notice how I'm showing the wideouts. I'm going to push past them. I'm losing them. I don't need to see the wideouts. I don't need to see the fans on the other side. I care about the line. And I'm prepared to pull if it's a pass, or push if it's a run. Oh, it's a pass. Watch me pull back, pan, push into the pile. See, just like going back and forth, back and forth. And you can teach somebody real quick about 90% of what they need to know if they can watch you. So I think part of that is watch me, and I'll show you how it's done. And I learned really from other people that gave me the same advice when I started. And the other thing is,
the old story about Mickey Mantle, is they were asking him, how is it, Mickey, that that you've got this great swing? Analyze your swing for us. And he'd start, and he'd try to, he couldn't do it. And finally he just gave up and said, hold on a second, watch this, toss me some pitches, and boom, he would show them because he couldn't tell them. It was right. Too natural. And so you've got it down to that kind of natural sense. And I'm saying, Rick, you can't. We got to put it in a bottle, because we can send 1,000 bottles around, but we can't send you around 1,000 different places.
There's a question on your chat board from Oliver asking about rights for college sports. Those rights are held by the university until they enter into the NCAA tournament. Then those rights are owned by the NCAA. You can do a local game or a regular season game simply with permission from the home team. But as you enter the tournament, the NCAA will charge you if you want to produce that game, because those rights are held and the NCAA wants to generate revenue off of that.
Now, high school's not nearly that restrictive, though.
Well, in 47 states it is, but not in Indiana. Y'all got the National Federation in your pocket.
Geez.
In Indiana, we don't. And part of that is that in 2010, I created ihsaatv.org as a portal for us to get the high school championships on the web And as that grew and more people started doing regular season games, we didn't really see the need. So get this, Tom. Here's the kind of numbers we get. I did a single camera shoot from the corner of an 8,000 person gymnasium. One game, 2 announcers with replay. 165,000 people watched this game. Google Analytics, uniques, that's exactly the number. Because in Indiana, when it comes to Indiana high school basketball, it is absolutely almost as big as the NCAA tournament. In fact, John Wooden once said, the only thing bigger than the NCAA tournament is the Indiana boys basketball championship. 165,000 uniques watching a single camera with professional announcers, an excellent cameraman, simple graphics, and nobody said, where's the second camera?
Right.
We had good people.
Yep.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's the other thing I've noticed over the years is the metrics. I'm an engineer, so I'm all about numbers. We track our metrics. I care about how many people watch, how old they are, where they are, what they like, how long they watched, how they watched, what operating system they used, and I create tables of data so I can learn about the trends of webcasting. Where are these people and what are they watching on? And I see more and more people using over-the-top appliances or getting on YouTube or watching on Facebook or Twitter. I still have my loyal fans on my webpage, but social media and the over-the-top is just blowing it up, just blowing up the numbers. So I think down the road, and I hate to say this, if somebody owns a television station, I think over-the-air TVs probably doesn't have a future in hyper-local sports. I think that the web will destroy them if it hasn't already. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Well, Rick, we are out of time, my friend. And we're going to move into the post show. And if folks have questions, maybe you can hang around for just a minute and answer questions in the post show. And then, of course, you're going to have to come back on the show when we really get into the heart of basketball season, unless, of course, you're busy doing broadcasts. But stick around for just 1 sec. Just 1 sec.
All right.
All right. So, folks, just a taste of Rick Vanderwielen. That was really, 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 really good. It's always nice to have somebody who's got that track record and who can say, hey, this is not what I think should happen. This is what I've done 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, and this is what really works. Stick around if you're watching us live. We're going to go to post show in just a second. If you're watching us after the fact, we'd love to have you come more often. So subscribe to us on YouTube. Go to Facebook and find the Streaming Idiots group if you're interested in live streaming, and join that group. That's a great group. And if you're interested in going even further with live streaming, especially sports, find the Webcasters group on sports that Rick manages. On behalf of all streaming idiots all over the world, we want to thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you next week. That worked. And we're out. And Rick's back. All right. Man, that was great. That was great. We shouldn't have talked as much as we talked yesterday. Doggone it.
Well, sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
We'll just have to have you come back on. That was so great. All right, so folks, if y'all have got questions, I know you may have asked them once already in chat, but go ahead and bring them back down to the bottom so that we can see them. Ken is asking.
One question. Oh,
go ahead.
Well, I was mentioning Dave. Hold on, it's scrolling too quick.
Yeah.
There was a question about how to avoid copyright music on YouTube and Facebook, and everybody runs into this.
Good subject.
I'll tell you where you can really get bit is the halftime show. And we don't put the band on, and we catch more flack because why don't you put the band on? They work just as hard as the football players. They practice just as much. Well, if I did, I'd get dumped on social media. You got to be quick on the mixer. Get the ambient down, and hopefully the algorithms and YouTube and Facebook forgive you momentarily so you can stay live.
Until we get a universal license.
Yeah.
Of course, it'll only be $800,000 a session, but that's okay.
Well, we used to pay that back in the day, the ASCAP BMI fees. Yeah, we had to. Somebody was asking about students in the production. We don't use students in our production, but since I'm a consultant to the Indiana High School Athletic Association, they do support student broadcasts. And so indirectly, I do help the students, but I don't bring them onto my productions. And frankly, it's because the quality's not there yet. There's a variable that I don't want. We have sponsors, lots of sponsors that are very, very generous to us, and they expect to see television on the internet, and I just can't afford not having a quality camera op or a professional announcers. So I don't use students.
There was a day, and I'm surprised that day went by so quickly, when people were just thrilled to be able to pick up a match that they wouldn't otherwise be able to see, and they could get it on their phone or their laptop or something like that, and they could watch, little Johnny, play soccer or play basketball or whatever it was, and it was something that wouldn't be available otherwise. Well, we've done that long enough, and now the standard has begun to change where they really do expect a good quality production.
The problem with webcasting is that we're not on TV Guide, and they don't list our games in the paper. And unless we take the initiative to push through social media reminders that this game is going to happen, nobody watches. I've had a lot of clients say, why did I only have 20 viewers? And I said, well, those were all accidents because you didn't tell anyone. Well, I said, look, my dad's sitting at home with a remote in his hand, clicking by channel 3, 4, 5. He doesn't get to your website. You have to remind people. You need to create a social media blitz and think about who you're going to tell and when you're going to tell people that this game is live. In fact, we're scheduling tweets right now using TweetDeck that will just slam people on Friday. Don't forget tonight at 7, watch this game. And at 7 o'clock, we are live. And then during the game, great play, score 7-0 with 1:23 left in the first, watch live now at. And then, of course, our Twitter account has 120,000 followers. And one of our Facebook partners has 634,000 likes. So when we do that, the numbers, they just skyrocket. But you've got to take the initiative to tell people you're on the air. And that's what I would tell a lot of these new webcasters. Think about how you're going to do that. Find people that will retweet you that have 10,000 followers, because maybe only you have 7 or 8. So, that's the problem, is finding the games. That's what I like about YouTube. I go to YouTube, I subscribe to you, it says Tom is live. Oh, click, I'm watching. Boom, that's simple.
There you go. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. All right, let's see what else. Let's try to go back through some of these questions here.
Jim was talking about his students that he's given opportunities to.
Let's see. I thought Ken Richer had a question here. Guest 257, any internet connection tips? Yeah. You can go to Webcaster group and Streaming Idiots group, and there's always a conversation going on about a way to do that. In fact, Rick, you just posted a matrix on the last broadcast that you guys did, and you were using a pair of Verizon hotspots that were bonded together somehow.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's done through a Video Pro, which let me slide off camera and I'll bring it to air here. Hold on.
All right.
Here we are. The VideoU Pro is a device that allows you to bond a Wi-Fi signal, a USB signal, and an Ethernet signal. So last week what we did was we used two MiFis by Verizon and bonded one through Wi-Fi and one through a USB. And the Teradek, what it does is it streams HDMI video right here to a cloud service where we resyndicated onto our normal group of social medias and other RTMP pushes. So this little guy saved me. Now, yesterday, we have a game up north. So old Jim Wofford and I of Hamilton County TV went up there, found a neighbor on the other side of the football field. Sir, would you mind if we stole your internet for this upcoming massively large game? All you need to do is allow me to put this tripod in your yard and plug it into the wall. So we did. And we went 1,000 feet on the other side of the stadium through 2 chain link fences, and the path was at 280 meg. So there's creative ways of doing it. Not every time are you going to find a neighbor, and not every time are you going to have good cell service, but it's always an issue, always. And then, of course, it's not just internet access. It's unfettered internet access. Don't block my ports. Don't block Facebook. Don't block Twitter. I use the term, make me butt naked to the internet.
Right.
And the school goes, oh, you're butt naked. You no blockage, no white. You're no, I'm not. You didn't give me Facebook. I can't start my stream. Blah blah blah. So that it really is tough. But with 5G coming out around the corner, there's a chance that maybe these fixes just seem like ancient history.
Yeah, but the fixes were more fun. I mean, I remember,
Well,
gee whiz, it probably was 7 years ago, you running into the same situation at our local high school venue and finding out that we were streaming soccer at the time, and one of the kids' grandparents lived in the neighborhood across the ravine and across the sports fields. And so we had, they didn't have internet at their house, so we put cable net internet in and had it go to their laundry room.
Yeah.
And then threw a cable out the window to a radio, one of those point-to-point wireless jobs that we hung on an old abandoned goalpost that backed up to their house in the sports fields, and then beamed it across a ravine about 800 feet to the press box. So we had to go by the house before every broadcast and make sure it was on, because she would unplug it so she could use that plug for her hot iron. And,
right.
If we forgot,
I showed up to do an NCAA National Championship Division I golf championship. Golf is one of the most complicated sports to do. It's a nonlinear sport, meaning that you never know where the ball is going to do. So we show up with people and equipment, and we're pulling fiber 2,000 feet to the 18th and blah, blah, blah. No internet. So I asked the folks there, who's your internet provider? Comcast. So I called Comcast and I said, I need an internet drop. So they showed up, climbed a telephone pole outside my truck, and dropped down a piece of coax and gave me a modem. And that modem was duct taped to that telephone pole for the entire NCAA Division Championship. I mean, the stories of finding internet and keeping it, oh my gosh.
Yep. And people watching are thinking, golly, this is a nice broadcast. Look how simple that looks. No problem.
It's too easy. Actually now I carry around a pair of Ubiquity nanostations, AC nanostations, $49 a piece. Point them at each other, turn it on, boom.
Yep.
It's again, technology. If you blink, or let's say you did a Rip Van Winkle and went to bed for a year, you'd wake up to a whole new world. People doing things differently.
Yep. This is indeed the golden age. I really do think this is the golden age of live streaming, when anybody with a passion and a few bucks can get into it and put together a pretty interesting broadcast. It doesn't have to be sports. It can be anything they have a passion about. It could be, local political scene, local civics, local retail. It could be church. It could be anything. And it doesn't take, the barrier to entry is gone. It really is.
Yeah. There's no barrier. No barrier. Other than permission.
Permission and what you can stomach. Like, can you stomach having your live stream freeze right when you have this really high profile guest and you've just introduced him, and then all of a sudden, exactly.
Yeah, Tom, in the day, we couldn't afford to bust. So in my Sprinter, we had 2 TriCasters hot all the time through a switch matrix.
Yep.
If this one died, one button, I'm live over here.
Yep.
Could not afford a bust. One person was asking on your website, how do you get venues to unblock your ports? We always test. I never assume that I'm going to show up and have everything my way. I have a test tomorrow at another high school. I'll go there. I'll take the same computer I'm going to stream with. I will test Facebook, Twitter. I will put a test stream out. I'll look at the return. I'll get happy. But sometimes they don't know how to unblock ports. And then, you got to come up with plan B, which may be your Teradek, or it may be streaming on their platform, but using your cell card to administrate Facebook or Twitter. So it's all different. I don't trust anybody.
Well, 5G is going to solve all of our problems.
Someday.
In fact, with 5G, you can even play the band and it won't violate any copyrights. That's how good 5G is going to be.
Let me write that down. Tom said.
That's right.
Well, Tom, I've really enjoyed being on your show. I've watched you for a year or two. I think the boys here at Hamilton County TV discovered you one day and said, hey, you got to watch this guy. He's got a great show and interesting guests, and you always learn something. So, and I've texted before that sometimes you are my midday entertainment. And I'll listen, even if I don't watch, I'll be listening. And so I've had a great time.
That doesn't say much about your standards. It really doesn't.
Yeah. And Oliver, the answer is yes, we use Ubiquity. We use Ubiquity. Excellent stuff.
Good. Jim, come back and see us again. Come back and see us again. Folks, we're going to let the stream run out, and we'll catch you next week.